On the rugged coast of Washington state, there stood an old lighthouse, abandoned for decades. Its white paint was peeling, and the glass in its lantern room was cracked. Locals whispered that anyone who stayed there after sunset never came back the same, or at all. Evan, a young man from the city, had recently inherited the lighthouse from his distant uncle. Unlike the locals, he didn't believe in ghost stories or curses. To him, the lighthouse was an opportunity, a peaceful place to escape the chaos of city life. On a cold autumn morning, he packed his belongings and drove to the coast, determined to restore the lighthouse. The first day was uneventful. Evan explored the spiraling staircase, checked the lantern room, and cleaned the dusty rooms. As night fell, he lit a small fire in the fireplace, sat in a worn armchair, and felt the wind howl through the cracks in the walls. He shrugged off the unease that crept over him and told himself it was just the wind. But as midnight approached, strange things began to happen. The temperature dropped suddenly, and the fire flickered violently. A soft whisper echoed through the lighthouse. "Leave. Now." Evan froze. He looked around, but the room was empty. "Must be the wind," he muttered. The next morning, he found deep scratches on the floor near the fireplace. They hadn't been there before. Over the next few days, Evan heard footsteps on the stairs at night, though no one else was in the building. Objects moved slightly when he wasn't looking. At first, he tried to rationalize it, settling wood floors, drafts, but the feeling of being watched never left. On the fifth night, Evan decided to stay awake until dawn. He sat in the lantern room, looking out over the dark, crashing waves. Around 2 a.m., a faint light appeared on the water, like a small boat, but it moved in impossible ways, floating and twisting across the waves. Then he saw it, silhouetted on the rocks below, his uncle. But this was not the kind man who had once written him letters. This figure's eyes glowed white, and its skin was pale, almost translucent. "Evan," the figure whispered, "you shouldn't be here." Evan's heart pounded. "Uncle, is that you?" The figure shook its head. "No, I am what remains. He is gone, and so will you." Before Evan could respond, the lantern room door slammed shut. The light from the fire died instantly, plunging him into darkness. He heard 100 whispers now, all around him. "Leave, leave, leave." Shadows stretched along the walls, twisting into grotesque shapes. They reached toward him, but every time he tried to step back, the floor seemed to stretch, trapping him in place. In desperation, Evan remembered the journals his uncle had left. Frantically, he felt around in the dark, finding a small leather-bound book. Opening it, he read aloud, "The lighthouse feeds on the living. Light guides the lost, but never the finder. To survive, you must leave before the bell tolls 3. The bell, the old fog bell at the top of the lighthouse. Evan looked at the clock. It was 2:45 a.m. He had 15 minutes. He ran, using the journals as a shield against the shadows. The stairs seemed endless, each step echoing like a drumbeat. The whispers grew louder, now screaming, "Stay! Stay!" Finally, Evan reached the door. With one last push, he swung it open and fell into the cold night air. The shadows stopped at the threshold, as if the outside world repelled them. Evan didn't stop running until he reached the edge of the cliffs, gasping for breath. When he looked back, the lighthouse stood silent, dark and foreboding. The wind howled through the broken glass, carrying the whispers across the water. The next morning, the locals found Evan sitting on the cliffs, staring blankly at the lighthouse. He tried to explain what happened, but no one believed him. They only shook their heads and warned him never to go back.
Evan never returned. He moved away, but the memory of that night haunted him. Sometimes, when the fog rolls in thick and the sea crashes against the rocks, he swears he can see a faint light in the lighthouse window and hear a whisper calling his name. He realized one terrifying truth. The lighthouse didn't just feed on the living, it remembered them, and one day it might call him back.